Let's stop talking about the injuries and all the bad things. Let's talk about the trade deadline. The Mets have plenty of talent across the board, which you know, but definitely been underperforming, making it a challenge. Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns, they're not known to be reactionary, but Dani, do you think this tough stretch, they were 45-24 before this stretch. Now things are starting to go downhill. Do you think that'll change their approach going into the deadline?
I still think they probably need a little more time to kind of see what direction their team is heading. Like if in the next 2 weeks before the All-Star break, they can start to see some positive signs from that offense. Because to Andy's point, I think the pitching could get back on track before the offense does, which will be helpful, right? You need run prevention. If you can't produce those runs, you at least need to prevent them from happening. And then, yeah, they do have to look at the market. But here's the reminder is that because the playoffs have been expanded now, a lot of teams will be in this race until the very end, right? And the National League right now is a really crowded race. It's interesting. I do feel like in the American League, it's starting to become a little more crowded, which means less people available, less guys on the market. And if you want one of those guys, you're going to have to pony up. And it doesn't seem to me, and Andy will know better than I do, that David Stearns and Steve Cohen want to deplete that farm system. I think that they still very much value what that means to them. I think teams that succeed the most, aka the Astros, you have the strongest farm systems. You develop from within. So like, yeah, you could bring in a center fielder. I've seen Byron Buxton's name floated around from the Twins. Like the Twins are a sinking ship right now, but just because you bring him in doesn't necessarily mean that's the right move for your team. And the Mets seem hyper focused on that idea. They want to bring the right guy in and they don't want to give away everything they have. They value that farm system. So it's going to be a dog eat dog fight to get some of that top talent at the deadline. But I do think the way they spent this offseason and their plans for the future, that they are always going to be active at that deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that. Sorry to interrupt you, Niki. I agree with what you said, Dani, and that I think they will be aggressive. Yes, their farm system is important to them, but like you said, they're in this thing to win it. I think Cohen and Stearns are aggressive by nature. And they know that this is a window that they're in. Francisco Lindor is not getting any younger. Pete Alonso's only here this year. You know, there's a lot of different things that we can say as to why this has to be now. And they've given their young players a lot of experiences here. So they have a really good idea with how do they feel about potentially moving this guy versus that guy versus that guy. A lot of guys have gotten major league experience. So I could see being a little more comfortable saying, all right, do you value Brett Beatty this way, other team? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. We could see that sort of thing. They've seen their guys now, the Mets have. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a named prospect or young player go in a trade because Mets are trying to win here.
Do you think, Andy, because I wanted to touch on what Dani said about their farm system. We know they value their farm system, but do you think at this year's trade deadline, if things are still going the way they are, that they're more likely to trade from the farm system or deal a guy like Vientos, Beatty, or Mauricio even?
Either. It depends. I think it depends on what the market is. It's like a boring answer, I know, but it's still too early they're not talking specific players yet. So if you want player X and the team you're working with says we want Brett Beatty, we're not interested in Jonah Tong, then okay, you talk about Brett Beatty. So it's too soon to say, but I don't think there'd be a whole lot of players that would be off limits to talk about.
Yeah, Dani, you mentioned the center fielder from the Twins that you've heard maybe linked to the Mets. Is there anyone specific you would like to see the Mets get as a center fielder?
Oh, gosh. I'm racking my brain. I mean, listen, when Byron Buxton is healthy, Byron Buxton is one of the best players in Major League Baseball. He's actually on pace this year for a career season, specifically in the power department. He's a guy that is going to run every single thing out in center field. He's a premier glove out there, but it's really hard to keep him healthy. And so that's the risk that you would be taking going after a guy like that. And listen, the Twins are a team that were projected to win the American League Central in the offseason. They were the team. And so I don't know what direction they're trying to head, but if they think that they have a chance of getting into the wild card, they're going to want major league ready talent, right? To Andy's point, they're going to want guys who are ready to go. The Mets know who those guys are. And so it's not going to be from the farm system. Are you willing to part with the guys that you've developed in your system? That's a question they'll have to ask. I mean, Buxton would be pretty high on the list. I'm trying to rack my brain of other center fielders that would be
Mullins in Baltimore, right?
That's yeah. I mean, I think I would take Buxton over Cedric Mullins, but yeah, Cedric Mullins' name will for sure be out there. I'm really intrigued what the Orioles are going to do. Actually, what they deem, what they think is going to happen for themselves at the trade deadline. But yeah, I mean, there aren't going to be, again, it's not going to be a ton of names because a lot of teams are going to be in the race, and so it's going to require you to spend or give up a lot of value if you want to get that guy on your team now.
Great point.
Yeah, Andy, anyone you would specifically like the Mets to see the Mets target?
I think that it's almost like a category, like if it's a Buxton or a Mullins or guys that are not superstars but good. It's like take your pick. It almost depends on. It's not like which player do I prefer more. It's like what price makes the most sense. It's all kind of like a group of guys. Now, there's one who stands out that I find interesting, which is Jarren Duran, who I have heard around the Red Sox that it's not crazy to think that he might become available. It's certainly no sure thing. So that would be a guy with some real years of control and some star potential. That'd be a different category. That'd be kind of interesting. And I'm just saying this. I haven't heard Brett Beatty through sourcing linked to Boston, but I know his swing, he likes to hit the ball the other way, would play really well in Fenway Park. So there's some things you can think about like that are kind of like theoretical. But I don't think it matters so much who they get as long as they get a guy that gives them more offense and center than what they currently receive.